Hi, everybody. Once again, this is Micah Lieberman with Scope and with ClinEco. And as always, I'm kind of just interviewing people from Scope or from ClinEco who we all know from the clinical research world and who have something interesting to say. And usually these interviews come out of a meeting we had. So Sri, we talked last week and I said, can I hit you up again this week? It'll be fast. And so thank you. So everybody, Sri is currently the CEO of Endpoint Clinical, but he also has a long and storied history in this space. He was also the chief digital officer for IQVIA, and he was also the head of life sciences for Cognizant. So a lot of us have met you. I know you through Scope, through BioIT World, and things like that. So, and I think you just ran a panel at BioIT World, Sri. So thanks for being here. Thanks for being here.
Micah, thank you so much. It's exciting to be here and really been in the clinical space for over 2 decades. And it's a very fulfilling space to be as we start to make impacts on patients and patient lives. And that's always a good place to be.
And it is an interesting time because you're a technologist too. So the question that I was going to ask you sounds vague, but it's not. And I think it's a good question to ask somebody like you. And it is, we're at the 2-year anniversary of ChatGPT. There's a lot of excitement. There's actual use cases. There's also some hype around the use of AI and generative AI in clinical research and R&D in general. So forget the hype. Let's talk about like what's actually happening, because I think you're in the trenches. You're making things happen. So what are some of the potential uses for AI in R&D? Because that's who we're talking to. You just got back from BioIT World. We just saw each other at Scope. This is the topic of the day. So I'm giving you freedom to wax poetic because this is where you live.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Mika, it's a very exciting time because we have this new tool available. But again, as they say, with any tool comes the responsibility and the management of using it correctly. I use two frameworks to help. How do you adopt such new tools into clinical and clinical ops and clinical development? So the first tool or framework I use is from McKinsey. It's called the Maker, Shaper, Taker model. So as you start to look at how you're trying to bring AI, are you building new large language models, which takes a lot of time, a lot of GPU and others, but are you building that? And there's a few people can even afford to build it, the Googles of the world, the Open AIs and Microsofts. So that's the maker model. Do you want to be in that place? And that is too generalistic for us in life sciences. The second is shapers, where you're taking large language models and shaping it for our use. So there's a lot of models which are coming in, like BioLLM and discovery specific LLMs. And there's lots of open source models which you can use, but you have shaped it for fit for purpose use for our industry. And then there are takers, where we're taking this proliferation of apps and technology available to use to drive either better drug discovery or better productivity in the clinical process. So now you may ask, hey, how do I drive better productivity? What are good use cases, bad use cases? So that comes to my second framework. So it's a 5-part thing where you can ask yourself these simple questions and then you can lead that to implementation of the technology. The first is, if you are in the business of content creation, you're creating content for other people's use, it's a very good use case for generative AI and the new tools coming up. One of my peer groups started to use content creation as a way to drive 30% productivity improvement. Because as human beings, when we communicate with each other, it is left with lots of ambiguity. With more structure, more content creation and narratives, you're able to make sure that you're streamlining your communication and therefore reducing the cycle time in conversations as well as in coming to the right decisions. First part. The second part is wherever you are using code and testing, which is a lot of e-clinical domains where I was,
Right.
it is a natural fit for using that. We will have to have AI assisted coding. We will have to use AI assisted user acceptance and testing, test cases. And therefore, anything related to generating structured code and testing of that and deploying that should be AI assisted. Of course, human in the middle. We know the context. We know it has to be validated. We know it has to be into a regulatory rigor, but it can be assisted, AI assisted. Second part. The third part is knowledge democratization. Wherever we have large bodies of knowledge, which is there in clinical protocols, in the heads of project management teams, in SOPs, in quality documents, where we have buried the knowledge in reams and reams and reams of pages, that can be democratized to be used across multiple different stakeholders, where you could chat with that SOP, understand what is going on with the clinical protocol, know what is going on in terms of certain domains where previously you had to have access to experts.
Right.
The fourth part is really what I call data storytelling. Gone are the days where we're pushing information to people and say, look at this Excel, look at this dashboard, look at this pivot table. The market is changing where you're asking for information. Tell me where I am with my competition. Tell me where I am in the clinical development process, and having it as a conversation to get things going. And the last part is the ability of now multimodal and multilingual technology. What that means is in my clinical space, multilingual is norm. And how do we use lots of AI assisted to make sure that we can communicate in the right language? And multimodal is where lots of content is in images, in videos, in other forms. And how can we discern that and put it back into my four pieces: content creation, coding, knowledge, and data storytelling.
You make it sound easy, and it is exciting, right? Like we started with 2-year anniversary. Things are moving very, very fast. Within bringing it back down, one question with bringing it back down into the domain and the use case of designing and running clinical trials. If we look at, you gave a good example. There's a lot of information there versus telling people, look at this and go execute. You want to actually have your experts be able to query this or do some learning on their own. What would be like, are you seeing some of your clients and some of your colleagues already doing this with the folks who are at the protocol development stage, where the task is, we have a protocol. Let's actually, can we reduce its complexity before we execute it and save all of that time and all of that burden? Is that a use case that you're already seeing?
Yeah, Mika, absolutely. The Holy Grail is a digital protocol. We talked about that
Yes.
in our previous conversation, but it still
Yep.
ways away because a digital protocol is a change management issue. It's not a technology issue.
Yeah.
It's taking
Right.
people.
Right.
But the next best thing is, as human beings create protocols and protocol templates, we need to use that same document to feed several downstream systems, whether it's IRT, whether it's EDC, whether it's CTMS.
Right.
And I have seen quite a bit of technology where we can extract content from a protocol and then get it ready in structured format for any one of the downstream queries and systems. And that's just one part of the art of the possible. Now, Mika, I talked about all the good things, but we have to guard against a few things. The AI guidelines from FDA, EMEA are very clear. If there are things which affect the endpoint, you need to make sure that you're providing the right guardrails on how is the model built, the
Right.
data you use, the structure and output, how can it be done in a very structured manner. But that's only if you're collecting clinical endpoints. When you have a human in the middle and making operations work, whether it's discovery operations or clinical operations better, you can use many of these tools because you're always having a human in the middle. And therefore, the last part I would leave everybody is that let's aspire to get 10x productivity in every function by building what I call digital or AI teammates, which can make us better. We're not looking to create Terminators. We're looking
Right.
to create Iron Man, Iron Woman who can do their jobs
Right.
10x better than before.
I appreciate it, Sri. All right, everybody. This is Micah. This is Sri. We'll see you either at Scope Europe, Scope US. BioIT just ended. We'll see you on ClinEco. He's doing good work, and we appreciate it. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sri.